Wanted to share some beautiful aerial footage of our reservoirs. This is Folsom Lake. Capacity is 977,000 acre feet. I'm pointing that out because we're going to compare them to a couple of others that aren't looking quite as plentiful as this one here, which runs right through the American River. Now let's take a look at Lake Oroville. Capacity 3.5 million acre feet. Again, recreation is okay, but what you're seeing here is a lot of that exposure at the tree line compared to where that lake should be. Here's a look at the dam, and you can see nothing flowing down there because we need to keep all that water in as much as possible coming out of the Feather River. Now we're going to transition to our largest reservoir in the state. This is Shasta, 4.5 million acre feet. And again, this one particularly hard hit. You can see that tree line there, a lot of exposure, and the beaches as well, a lot of exposure. We are able to put boats in at this time, but you can see how all these channels kind of feed throughout Lake Shasta. And unfortunately, this is the one that we really need to be much more full at this point. Looking at the numbers, right now we're at 40% full for Shasta. Really in dire straits there. Oroville at 54% full, Folsom at 88% full. But again, that one's so much smaller. That's why I wanted to point out those numbers early on. Folsom, about 977,000 acre feet, whereas Shasta, over 4.5 million acre feet. So the averages are going to reflect that as well. Folsom at 109% of average, Oroville at 68, and Shasta 48. A couple of other ones that we're looking at too. Don Pedro at 83% of average, and New Melones in the Central Valley at 57% of average. Now the key here is when we look at those averages, what does that really mean? Well, that's from our peak snow melt. When we start to see that snow melting into our rivers, that eventually gravity will take it into our reservoirs. And currently we're at 862,000 acre feet for Folsom. That is starting to come down a little bit. So that means we're basically at our peak right now and slightly above ahead of schedule. Normally we like to see that all meter out very slowly through the dry summer months, but with some near record heat that we've been dealing with recently, that's melting that snowpack a little bit earlier in the season. We got a couple of late season storms, but really most of this, believe it or not, is coming from that one exceptional atmospheric river that hit in late October. You can see it right here, moving right through that American River Basin area, traveling from San Francisco right through the Tahoe Basin. That's where Folsom benefited from so much of that snow melt coming down the hill and then eventually making it into the reservoirs. Whereas parts of the northern parts of the state where Shasta and Oroville are, we just didn't see the beneficial rains coming in. Southern California actually saw better atmospheric rivers this water year than, say, the Northwest Coast through Trinity and Shasta, even the Feather River Basin. So unfortunately, those two largest reservoirs particularly hard hit. Numbers look good. When you look at just raw numbers, it looks impressive. Over 24 inches of rain along the Northwest Coast, about 18.5 inches near Redding, Ukiah, nearly 20 inches of rain. But when you compare that to the averages, that's where we really see some of those numbers that are strikingly low here, especially with our growing drought, which is hitting Northwest and Northern California much more than, say, the 2012-2016 drought, which could prove to be a bigger hit for us when we look at the long-term averages and where we kind of put things in terms of our water needs. As far as the month, our week-to-week difference, we didn't see any change here with our drought monitor. Not terribly surprising because we're now starting to enter into the dry part of the year. So exceptional drought holding at 12%, extreme drought holding at 60%. But again, this isn't just a California issue. This is an entire Western issue where we see growing drought concerns across portions of the West, including Texas and New Mexico. The key here is the expectations are drought is actually going to improve slightly for parts of the desert Southwest because an above average monsoon season is expected with a La Nina year, whereas California, that's really not going to benefit us too much in the Central Valley. May get a few showers popping up in the Sierra, which would help to suppress some of the fire danger that will be growing in the coming months. But overall, it's not a great outlook considering how low those reservoirs are and how much we needed those rain and snow events to pick up over the past water year.